For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon Derehove. Legal firm Bell Dewar Director in Mining, Lucas Moalusi, joins me to discuss a mining strategy for mining disputes. The current turbulence in the mining industry has highlighted that mining business operations are not structured in a way that adequately benefits the communities around the mines. How can the industry reasonably address these issues?
Shannon, I think the first thing that the industry must acknowledge is that communities are a key part of the industry, simply because most of the mining industry operations are on community-owned or occupied land. But having said so, the law itself is such that it stipulates that once you get a mining right, you are compelled to perform X, Y, Z, and what I mean by that is that there's a requirement of what you call a social and labor plan that is always has to be in place, and it must always be complied with. And that is one way where the industry can ensure that it gives back to the community and it gives up to enrich the community expectations.
You note that the Royal Bafokeng Nation is an example of best practice in the mining industry. Can you tell us about this? What can other near-mine communities learn from the Royal Bafokeng?
Yeah. Royal Bafokeng started like any other community in the sense that it started with having nothing. Platinum was discovered on their land, and once that happened, the rest is history, as we know that we have Implat, we have Anglo Platinum on their land, and what then followed was what I can describe now as a good partnership between the industry and the Bafokeng Nation. And that has led to a very clear harmonious relationship between the industry and the community who has occupied or who owns the land where the industry has massive mining operations. What the other communities can learn from Bafokeng is, one, you need to ensure that you become a player in the industry. You need to organize your affairs in such that, in a way that at the end of the day, you are able to actively participate through the relevant structures within the community. And the structures I'm referring to is pure commercial structures vis-a-vis the administration angle or the customary angles or structures within the community.
I suppose it's something government could learn from Bafokeng too.
Yeah, I suppose so, and I think government also has to seriously consider how best they can assist and empower communities who are at the moment really in need of help, and take the Bafokeng role structure as, as a yardstick for the mining industry. And I'm not in any way suggesting that the Bafokeng structure is holier than thou, is all that perfect. It has its flaws, maybe for some communities, but it has been tried and tested, and thus far at least it has shown to be successful.
You recommend that the community around a mine should act as the anchor for empowerment transactions instead of outsiders being used as majority partners in BEE transactions. Can you elaborate on this recommendation?
As we know, we have BEE legislations in the country, in terms of which the mining industries are expected or are required to have at least a minimum of 26% shareholding. The effect thereof is that the mining companies must go out and say, who do we choose as our BEE partner? As I earlier said, communities generally are the owners or the occupiers of the land where the mining industries will have their operations. And I'm of the firm opinion that there's no reason why the mining companies should prefer somebody else over and above the community who is the occupier of this land as their preferred BEE partner. And if you think more about it, once you have the community who is occupying the land or which owns the land, if you take that community as your BEE partner, that will harmonize also the relationship between the two parties, the mining company and the community, because the community will no longer see this mining company as an outsider coming onto the land to take what is rightfully belongs to the community, because that's how the community sees it. This is rightfully our asset, notwithstanding the current legislation that the state is the custodian of all the mineral assets in the country. The communities still see themselves as the owners. Now, once you have the mining company having the community as a BE partner, you'll have a situation where the community will feel more, will see themselves as being an active participant in this industry.
How can it be enforced, though?
So, at the moment, I'm aware that there's an impending amendment to the legislation, and unfortunately that amendment has been hanging for a while, where the department intends to give the Minister of Mineral Resources a discretion in certain compelling circumstances to force the mining company to take the relevant community as its empowerment partner, and even ensure that it gets some equity stake in the relevant company. But unfortunately, that amendment is still to see the light of day. It has been impending for a while. That is part of how it can be enforced.
So it relies now on government to actually move ahead with it.
Exactly, it relies on government to enforce it. But having said so, I don't see why shouldn't the mining companies themselves really take it upon themselves to say, this is important for us. This community is a directly affected entity insofar as our mining operations are concerned. Why shouldn't they say, this is our preferred BE partner, they are the owners of the land, they are the occupiers of the land. If we come daily to mine on any piece of land, these are the people who are directly affected. Why shouldn't the mining companies really take that firm view without government intervention to say, this is our preferred BE partner? Because generally speaking, communities are BE compliant. I mean, 99% of the communities where there are mining operations are BE compliant.
Do you believe that creating a commercial entity for the communities to manage their stakes in the mine will effectively solve the problems on the mines?
Not entirely, but to a great extent, because one of the challenges that the mining companies have at the moment is that even when they have to deal with a community at commercial level, there are no proper structures to deal with. And once you have a commercially structured community, the mining companies will know who to speak to, how to speak to that person at any given time. At the moment, in most communities, you'll still have to go through the traditional structures of a traditional council, or what some others call a tribal authority. But once you have a commercial structure in place, that will help the mining company to know who to speak to, but that will not entirely eliminate the challenge. The real challenge, I think, is, are the communities being seen as being able to be an active participant in the industry? And if so, why can't they be taken on board and really get what they believe and what I think is their fair share of the stake in the mining industry, which will be equity stake, I think, can to a great extent help to resolve the problem.
Well, at least that gives us a little bit of hope.
Well, communities are running out of patience.
Yeah. And it's fair enough that they are.
I believe so, because I mean, it's said to go on community-owned land or occupied land, you see huge mines, huge shafts on the land, but you go on the ground, people are starving. And that's what I think should not be the case in this country. And I still reiterate, I'm not saying once the communities have an equity stake and that they be preferred partners, that will resolve the problem, but that will go a long way to alleviate the problem, I think.
Thank you. That was Bell Dewar, Director in Mining, Moalusi, discussing solutions for the mining disputes.